If I conferred with our furry friends, man to animal, think of the amazing repartee. If I could walk with the animals, talk with the animals, grunt and squeak and squawk with the animals, and they could talk to me.
Hello and welcome to Pet Watch, a monthly program about the Williamson County Animal Center. I'm Debbie Sims and I'll be your host today. And my guest is Melissa King. Hi, Melissa.
Hi.
Melissa has a little purrito, a little kitty purring under there. And today she's going to inform us about fostering and being a cat volunteer. What does fostering really mean? If a person says, I want to be a cat foster, what does that mean?
You take them home and you provide the care and nurturing for them, whether they're babies or adults.
And we're getting into kitten season, yes. a totally unscientific but predictable event. Happens when the warm season hits.
Yes.
A lot of kittens get born in this community that are not planned. So first of all, we encourage spay-neuter. But when that doesn't happen, we often get litters of kittens over and over again. And I have some things here that might help our viewers understand what it's like to care for a newborn without a mom.
Yes.
You've done that before in your home.
I have.
Okay, so you get called by the shelter, you're a trained kitten foster, and they say, I have a litter of 5 kittens, can you take them? And if you had the time and the resources, what's it like to take home 5 kittens that don't have a mother to nurse?
It's time consuming. I mean, you're feeding them every 2 hours around the clock. You're not getting a lot of sleep for the first week or two, but it's very rewarding. You get to see them grow and you're nurturing them, so yeah.
They don't even open their eyes for how long?
The first couple weeks, they don't have their eyes open. Wow,
so they're just lost without mom.
Mm-hmm.
When you take on a foster every 2 hours, is this a family effort?
No, I usually can do it by myself.
Yeah.
But my family has learned how to do it, and they've stepped in when needed.
And you actually feed them from one of these little bottles?
Yes.
Okay, and do you have to make up formula like you do with a human baby, right?
Yes.
This is what the formula that we recommend and we use. Kitten Milk Replacer, KMR, which is a powder. And we will probably have an appeal for that to the community soon.
Absolutely.
They drink that for how long?
4 to 6 weeks. And then you try to wean them around 4 weeks onto the wet food. It's a mixture.
So while they're in your home, do you isolate them from other pets that you might have?
Yes, it's best if you have them in a room to themselves to keep them safe and keep your other animals safe. Make sure your animals are up to date on their shots because these guys haven't had any. So, and it just keeps them safe in the room. A nice quiet place to spend time with them.
I've heard that a lot of people have a little room or an extra bedroom that they're not.
We all have them kitten rooms, our nurseries.
Nursery, okay, I'll go ahead and call it that. You have your kitten nurseries. If you feed them every 2 hours, I'm sure there's, other than the cleaning, is the obvious. Are they learning to use a litter box once their eyes open, or is there the daily or hourly cleanup too?
Well, it's called making them potty. So you will feed them, each one, you will burp them, and then you will use a wet rag or I use a Kleenex and warm and try to get them to go potty.
Encourage
because that's
them.
how the mom does.
Okay.
So you're kind of teaching them to go to the bathroom after they eat. That way you can make sure that they're still healthy. Oh. They're going to the bathroom. They're getting their nourishment. And then when they start moving around, usually about 4 weeks, it's instinct for them to go find something to bury. But you still have to watch them because sometimes they forget and they go somewhere else. But you're learning, you're teaching them. So
are they loose in your nursery or are they in a?
In the beginning, I tried. They start off in a carrier or something small because you want a heating pad in there to keep it on low setting to keep them warm, and then you're going in there also. But once they start moving, they do need some. They've got to move around. So yeah, you start growing your area to where, but you want to keep it somewhat small because they're learning and they're going to make mistakes.
I've seen people who foster puppies put them in one of those plastic baby pools.
Yeah.
I'm sure after about 3 weeks, a kitten can get out of that.
Yeah, they can climb a baby gate when they're about 4 or 5 weeks old.
4 or 5 weeks old.
So even
baby
a baby,
gates.
They
don't work.
I have a baby gate to separate the door from my animals once they get bigger, but you got to watch because once they figure it out, they're over in seconds. So.
How many animals do you have in your personal?
I have 3 cats and a dog. 2 of the cats came from the shelter.
Oh, wow.
And then my daughter's also adopted a dog and a kitty from there too.
Are they curious when you bring home kittens? Are they?
Oh, I have one that we call the babysitter. He's got Maine Coon in him. And he sits there and watches the baby. When they get bigger and they've had at least a first round of shots, he'll sit there and watch them throughout the house and keep an eye on them.
Did you ever lose one and have to go looking for it?
No. We try to keep them in the room.
In the room, yeah.
But once we know that they've had at least their first round of shots,
That's amazing that male cat has the instinct to
he's so funny.
to take care of the little ones.
He just sits and watches them. Yeah.
You know, when people find litters of kittens, and this is how it happens at the shelter. We know kitten season has started when we get a couple of litters in a day, and somebody says, "I heard this sound of kittens mewing," or "I found them under the house," or "I found them in the barn," or we've had them everywhere, office building, in a hole. You know,
Yeah.
If there's no obvious mother cat around, then it becomes a crisis because they will not survive a newborn. A newborn wouldn't survive out in the elements. Even though it's not cold, that warmth is still very important, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Because they can't control their own body temperature for how long?
At least 3 to 4 weeks, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, you're putting them on a heating pad on low setting. And you gotta make sure it's not one that cuts off after 2 hours. And you're constantly, and then you're changing the towels and the blankets because sometimes they'll go when you don't expect them to. But yeah, you just want to keep them warm and safe for the first 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, we've had people call in, and we love to give advice to people if they do see kittens and they wonder what to do. They can call us at the shelter, and we have plenty of people on staff who can give them advice. Oftentimes it's good to try to be sure the mother's not around.
Well, yeah, because if she knows that you're around there, she's
Right.
not going to come back.
Right. We had some in a county building that we knew where the kittens were, and they couldn't really move. And we knew the mom was around somewhere, but to get her, we had to take a humane trap over and lure her in. And
Then you could get the
yeah. And it was better because it took 2 days to get her, but we got her and the kittens together. And
That's great,
and
yeah.
Yeah, so that's important for people. Don't just snatch them up. Survey the situation and say, let me watch for a few minutes or hours and see if she doesn't come around.
As long as they're not someplace that they could get eaten,
hurt. If they're in imminent danger, of course,
yeah.
they're down a drain, over a drain, or they're
But
in
you
the
take
middle
the
of the street.
babies away from her,
Right.
she's just going to go in heat again and have more babies.
Yeah, and cats can have kittens for the first time at some say 4 months old. A kitten can
Then when they go,
go into heat. So the cat overpopulation is a constant issue. Even in a county with residents like ours who are, very conscientious about their pet's health. One unneutered male cat and one unspayed female, if they make 7 offspring every 5 months, that's astronomical. The numbers are 700,000 after a couple of years that those 2 cats can make, and people don't realize that happens.
Yeah.
And of course, wild cats or loose cats or cats with no owner are not going to get spayed or neutered unless they come through our system.
Yes.
So that's important to remember, that when they do come in, that at least that cat and those kittens will never have more babies.
Exactly.
Now, when kitten season hits, the shelter goes into a mode that is unbelievable to see. I mean, every nook and cranny is filled with kittens. Now, the ones that you might foster, or someone like you fosters, can't come back to the shelter until they're how old?
At least 6 to 8 weeks. It depends on how how they're doing.
This kitten we got today came in with a litter of 5 and a stray, and it's 8 weeks old, but it's not large enough yet to be spayed or neutered.
Right. They have to be at least 3 pounds.
3 pounds. It depends on the veterinarian's criteria, but if that kitten were adopted, we'd have to make an appointment for it to come back and get a spay or neuter surgery. So there is a point where they have to be watched carefully because they need to get that operation as soon as they can. When you take on a foster litter or a foster baby at home, you're not only up every 2 hours feeding it, but it needs, may need a medical care during that time.
Right.
And what do you do when your kittens need to be checked, or they have something that you're suspicious of?
Amber Mears is awesome. She's over all the fosters, and so anytime you have a question, you can text her or, call her, and she'll help you with anything.
And if she thinks she needs to be seen, then you bring the fosters back to us.
Yes.
For all the veterinary care that they might need.
Yes.
And upper respiratory infections are something that all cat fosters watch for carefully.
Yes.
Why is that so rampant in cats?
It's just a virus, and it's very easy for them to catch.
Mm-hmm. I know we've had it in the shelter a couple of times. It's inevitable almost.
Yeah.
It's signified by crusty eyes and
Runny
sneezing.
eyes, runny nose, sneezing. The cats can spread it from cat to cat, and then we can spread it if we're not keeping our hands clean.
And the good thing about fosters is the litters are all separated while the immune systems are developing and that kind of thing. And you're able to keep them healthy,
Yes.
healthy and cared for, and have them grow to the size that they can be adopted. Because we can't take them back into the shelter and put them in adoption until they can eat solid food.
Right.
And one of the first foods that we give them is a soft food, Fancy Feast. I think there's a Fancy Feast kitten. You have to kind of look at the label carefully.
Yes.
Which one do you think the kittens prefer the most?
The turkey. There is a fish one too, but the turkey seems to, and it's,
This is Tender Turkey Feast kitten food.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's the
so
best
if
one.
people want to donate something, these go very quickly. They're tiny, tiny cans, and they don't come in large cans. So the shelter is constantly needing these tiny cans of Fancy Feast kitten food, and some of them say pate, but it needs to be a solid gel-like consistency, not pieces of larger food for them to start with. When do they start eating dry food or?
It just depends on the kitten. I mean, we offer it once they start with, you call it mush, where you mix it with the formula, and then you just offer the dry food. And
you mix this with
the
some formula? And, okay, because this is what they're familiar with.
Yes,
so
and it's to get them that transition that this is the same, but it's different, and it's a different consistency. And then eventually, you start adding water and the dry food out for them, and it's amazing to see that they just go there and start eating it.
Yeah.
Once their teeth come in after 3 or 4 weeks,
do they have a weaning period? Do they get in distress about being taken from mom and changing to solid food?
They can, yeah. That's what you really got to keep an eye on them and making sure that they're getting their nutrition that they're supposed to have.
And they're just like human babies. I mean, this one's crying and crying until you wrapped it up in a towel.
It just wants to be warm
you have the instinct for cuddling. I want to let our viewers know that kitten season is no joke. I looked up some statistics, and last year, a typical month like April, we had 119 cats come into the shelter. And then in May, it started to rise. In the following months, 209 in May, and then 345 in June. It's a huge number. It takes a village to take care of these young kittens, and that continued in the 300s up through August last year. So it's a warm season issue, and it's one that we want to address and get our hands around first. So if anyone's interested in becoming a kitten foster, I encourage you to contact the shelter. You will get some orientation from our foster coordinator, Amber Mears, and then you will receive all of the things you need in your home and a kit containing information about how to care for the kittens. And you could really, really help us when this kitten season hits. So I encourage you to call the shelter and do that. And Melissa, I thank you for bringing our kitty today and keeping it quiet for us. And I appreciate everything you do. Melissa is a cat volunteer inside the shelter as well, and does a lot of training with our new volunteers, and we thank you for that and appreciate it so much. We'll be back in a moment with more of Pet Watch.
You are the national parks. And no matter who you are or where you come from, the parks are you too.
Hello and welcome back to Pet Watch. I have a very special guest today for this segment is the new director of Williamson County Animal Center, Ondrea Johnson. Hi, Ondrea.
Hi.
And first, we'll all get used to Ondrea.
Yes, well, I answer to anything close.
Ondrea, we're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
You were recently announced as the new director of the center, and people in the community probably know you from being in this area for how many years?
I've been here for 19 years now, and I've been pretty active with lots of different organizations since I've been here, so I do know a lot of people in the community, but I'm looking forward to meeting more people. I've met a lot of people since I started at the center.
Yeah, and you're from West Tennessee.
I am.
Or kind of the border there.
I grew up in South Fulton, went to school at the University of Tennessee at Martin, so West Tennessee through and through until I was 22, and that's when I moved to the Nashville area. So.
And you live here in Williamson County?
I do. I've been in Franklin since '99, so I've been here for
quite a while.
Most of my adult life.
Right, right.
So.
And what brought you to the mindset to apply to be the director at the Animal Center?
Well, my parents would tell you that I've been rescuing animals since I was about 5. I can remember bringing home puppies that I would find. I don't even know. I had a radar for finding stray animals since I was little, and I can remember hiding them in our barn, thinking my parents wouldn't know that I had a puppy or a kitten out there. But so I have been involved in rescue, really formally involved in rescue since I was an adult. I mostly have fostered dogs for local rescue organizations, and just it's my passion is animals. So when at one point Mayor Anderson asked me to be on the task force for the new building that we are building, and during the course of that experience I learned that the director position was going to be open, and told Rogers Anderson that it was my dream job, and here I am.
And here you are.
Yes.
And there were several candidates from across the country, and Rogers wisely chose you, so we're glad to have you. You mentioned a new building. The county is in the preliminary stages of acquiring some property, because if you've been here since '99, and any of our viewers have been here for any time at all, they know how this county has grown and continues to grow. Population has increased. The demands we have to build new schools every year. We have overcrowding in some of the schools. There's traffic. I mean, it's obvious. Right. This is the place to be.
Right.
And we want to make the animal shelter, the animal center, as welcoming and being part of the growth of the county. So they've acquired some property, and do you know how many acres the land is?
I believe it's 27 acres. So absolutely right. We want the Animal Center to be representative of our community. I mean, I think our schools have done a pretty good job of keeping up with us being the best school system in the state.
Right.
And really our Animal Center should reflect that as well. We've got a wonderful library, here in Franklin. Lots of parks and rec facilities that are being developed to accommodate the community, and the Animal Center shouldn't be any different than that. So we're going to work really hard, work closely with some specific architects that understand the needs of animals that are being sheltered, and we're going to have a state-of-the-art facility where it's a pleasure to come and have a good experience with the animals, whether you're coming to adopt, do community education. We'll be able to offer lots of other things that we aren't offering now because we're limited in our facility.
Yeah, we have used every nook and cranny of the current building. And it's designed as such that we can't really alter the spaces easily to change them. In the 5 years I've been there, every room has been used for something different. We change it around as much as we can. It's like you turn it over and this office becomes this room, and then that room becomes something else.
Right.
So one of the dreams of this acreage, which is located near the corner of Old Charlotte Pike and Carlisle Lane.
Right.
If you're out that way, people may notice that the large electrical lines that follow the path of the Mack Hatcher extension are already there, and they actually pass behind this piece of property. So that's kind of a good way to locate it. And we're in the preliminary stages of looking at the land and bringing in utilities and that kind of thing. So I know that the Mack Hatcher extension is key, and it's supposed to start next year. The spaces that we create there, in order for them to meet the needs of the county for a number of years in the future, is what we're hoping for. Is that not right?
Yes.
Right now, we have no community space.
No.
Yeah. When we have our training sessions, we have to have them off-site.
Right. We're having one at the library tonight, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. So that's one of the main things that I'm excited about in a new building would be a multi-use space.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things you see that space being used for if in the new shelter?
Well, obviously, we would have community education opportunities, be able to train our volunteers on site. That would be amazing. We would have the opportunity to maybe host mutual collaborations with other organizations in the community to do things like volunteer days, and we'd love to have a dog park out there where the community members can come and enjoy the dog park. So lots of different opportunities for spaces that we don't have the ideal access for now.
And one of your statements that struck me as so telling about your passion was that you said to me, I want the shelter, the Williamson County Animal Center, to be the first place people think
Absolutely.
of to adopt an animal.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the things that drove you to think of that?
Well, being in the rescue world for as long as I have, a lot of people come to me when they're looking for an animal. They'll come and ask questions about dogs, specifically dogs, because that's where my depth of experience is. And in the past, I have always known of different rescues that specialized in different types of animals. So I would direct people based on the characteristics they were looking for, usually to specific rescues, or tell them certain breed mixes to look for when they were looking on Pet Finder or some of those other resources. But I really feel like our animal center should be the first place that we look, and it hasn't always been the first place that we look because, a lot of times either the public perception hasn't been there. In years past, many years past, there was maybe a negative connotation with the animal shelter. There's been this misconception that the dogs there are going to be euthanized if they're there more than a certain amount of time. We have a great save rate here in Williamson County. We're, not going to, if you have to bring a stray to us, or you find a dog that, maybe it has an owner, but you can't find the owner. I can't tell you how many times people would say, I don't want to take it to the animal center, they'll just put it down. That's not what happens. We hold dogs there to give their owners a chance to find them. If they aren't claimed by an owner, then, we're not going to just put down a healthy dog. We'll find a home for that pet. So I want to combat those misconceptions that are out in the community. I think our center has come so far in the last 10 years in public relations. I don't think we have that connotation anymore. But there are still people who don't know and haven't come to the center. And I think part of that is because the facility it's not necessarily conducive to having it open to the community. It's hard to host large groups there. But Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, I've seen tours going through since I've been there.
Right.
So when we get in our new space, I feel like that's really going to make that final jump for the community to see that this is a positive experience. Come and visit. I will say, though, I got a note on my desk yesterday from someone who adopted, I believe, last week, and she was really complimenting our staff. She was complimenting the facility. It doesn't smell bad. The staff's very helpful. It's clean. So our staff is doing a great job with the current facility, and it'll only improve in the new place.
Yeah, you alluded to the save rate, which in case our viewers hadn't seen our last show, we talked about finishing 2017 with a 97% save rate. And 10, 15 years ago, we did not have a good plan for dealing with the overpopulation of pets. And there was a time when 40% of the cats that came in there were euthanized,
Right.
10, 15 years ago. So times have changed, and now we're
Absolutely.
saving all but 3%, which
Yep.
is a phenomenal rate for an open admission public shelter.
Absolutely.
And what I tell people is if something arises in your life and you cannot care for your animal anymore, we will find it a new home. So it's not, and we understand that circumstances happen, and we don't ask any questions if you need to surrender your animal.
Absolutely.
I'll find it, our staff will find it a place where it can be cared for, and it's not shameful to do that. It happens. People, their parents can no longer take care of an animal, or if there's a financial issue, a million things happen.
Right.
So I always say, don't feel bad about surrendering your animal. If that's what you have to do, we'll find it a home.
Absolutely.
And once an animal is surrendered to us, or a stray comes in and no one claims it, we do test the animal.
Right.
Right. So when we do that, we're determining what?
So we do, obviously, we test for health, disease, things like that. We vaccinate the animals. We make sure they're spay and neutered. And also, particularly with dogs, we do temperament testing. So when you come into the center, we have a color coding system where if you want a really playful dog that's got a lot of energy, you can look for a certain color, that their kennel cards are coded so that you'll know that dog is going to fit what you're looking for. If you're looking for a couch potato that just wants to lay around, our staff can help you.
We have
with
some
that
of
as
those.
well. Yes, we do. We do. We have them all across the board, and some people, if a dog maybe doesn't need to be with children, we know that. That doesn't necessarily mean that dog won't be a wonderful dog for an adult home.
Yeah.
Just, maybe isn't a fan of little kids. We know adults who are like that as well,
Right.
So we'll tell you all those things about the dog. We want every placement to be successful, so we're going to give you as much education, as much information on the dogs and cats as we possibly can. Cats have personalities just like dogs do. Some are more laid back than others. So.
And one question we cannot answer is, will this cat get along with my dog? The cat, the behavior in a shelter where they're kept completely separate from each other,
Absolutely.
and the behavior at home is different. But there are hardly any conflicts and behavior issues with animals, with cats and dogs, that can't be worked through.
Right.
It takes time. We'd be happy to give people advice after they adopt. If their dog and cat don't get along, it takes time, and we don't want
Absolutely.
you to bring it back after one night.
Right.
It's kind of like bringing the new baby home and the other
Exactly.
kid's jealous. I mean, it's a process. And
It is.
Well, we do support people after the adoption. Ondrea, we could go on forever, but we're running out of time. I want to thank you for this opportunity to introduce you to the community, and they'll be seeing you out there because
Absolutely.
building community relationships is one of your tenets. And,
Absolutely.
I look forward to working with you in making the shelter the first place people think of.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this version of Pet Watch today, and I want to thank Melissa King, our volunteer, who came in and told us all about fostering kittens. Don't forget to call the shelter 790-5590 if you're interested in becoming a foster. And I hope you enjoyed meeting our new director, Ondrea Johnson. Please join me again next month on Pet Watch.
If I conferred with our furry friends, man to animal, think of the amazing repartee. If I could walk with the animals, talk with the animals, grunt and squeak and squawk with the animals,